Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash at Scoop News Group, and we're here at CyberTalks with Bruce Brody, Senior CISO Advisor with Cisco. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking, what does it mean to have a baseline level of cybersecurity in 2021 in light of all we've been going through this past year?
Well, it means basic cyber hygiene, which unfortunately not all enterprises have been following, but the increased emphasis is on at least getting your basic hygiene together. That means keeping your patches updated, keeping your software updated to the newest versions, making sure your people are trained and aware of their responsibilities when they should or should not be clicking on certain things. Basic cyber hygiene is the baseline, but from there it can get significantly more detailed.
Well, you work with a lot of federal agencies. How did the pandemic affect the way that organizations are securing their data, both in government and the broader, regulated industry sector?
One of the things that happened was of course, the dispersal of the workforce in most cases, and then the concept that the perimeter is no longer what it used to be, and so VPNing into your environment became very important, and quite a bit of attention was devoted to making sure those links were secure. Quite a bit of zooming and other kinds of video links, some of which had some problems early on and have since ironed themselves out. So we now have ways to collaborate that are more secure than before. The return to normal has not gone entirely according to plan, because some departments and agencies have decided that they'll either stay distributed or for the purposes of cost savings, or go to some kind of a hybrid model where you come in a few days a week and work remotely from there. But again, the strength in VPN, the emphasis on zero trust, and the fact that the human is the new perimeter and needs to be protected in ways that hadn't been protected before. I think those are the changes that we're seeing that are probably going to have some staying power.
Absolutely. Well, next, what kinds of changes do you expect to see in the cyber world over the next year?
The good news is that the current administration has at least hinted at some of the changes that we're going to be seeing. One of the more interesting one that came out of the executive order last month was that we're going to start taking seriously the kinds of software that the government's going to be acquiring, and that a software bill of materials and some level of software integrity will be required before it can be acquired by the government. That's important from a number of standpoints. Number one, the government has buying power. So a company that builds software and sells to the government is probably not going to build a second version of that software to sell to commercial agencies or commercial enterprises. So what will happen is that ripple effect across the software industry will be very important in terms of how software is developed and how it's less buggy. The other thing that's kind of important is the emphasis on the supply chain. And the supply chain has been where the bad guy has been able to get in and exploit a number of commercial entities and critical infrastructure companies in order to do damage. And so additional emphasis, now I don't know how that emphasis is going to work, but the additional emphasis on the supply chain has now risen to one of the near the top of the issues of concern. Obviously, ransomware being a driver there, but so is the security of the defense industrial base.
Well, and lastly, Bruce, and a question we've been asking a number of cybersecurity executives, what's the biggest thing that you think most people don't appreciate or really understand fully about cybersecurity?
The most important thing that they don't understand is that it's not so much a technical problem, it's a people problem. Now, that does not to say that technology isn't an enabler in getting to the right kinds of defenses. But your biggest vulnerability is your workforce. And if you're not hardening your workforce, then you're basically leaving the windows open while you're trying to lock the front door. The workforce is where the attacks are coming, and the people being attacked are very vulnerable because they're just not sufficiently aware of their roles and responsibilities as part of the cybersecurity as a team sport. So you can do everything you can to strengthen your defenses with technology, and you'll still have a vulnerable workforce that'll allow entry attack vectors that can be very devastating. So a focus on workforce protection, I would say, is the workforce hardening. I would say is that area that few people are putting a lot of attention.
Well, Bruce Brody, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us here at CyberTalks and share some of your insights and perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.